Going on YouTube, Cloverbell's here back with another Scarlet Violet video, and today we're going to be going over some of the best teams that you're going to need to know and prepare for if you're attending the Toronto Regionals this weekend. So we've compiled a pretty solid list, and what we're going to do with some of these teams is just go over how they function, just the archetype in general, and just, explain how they work and, offer some suggestions as to, what to do against some of these teams. But overall, again, if you're going to Toronto, these teams need to be on your radar, and you need to know how to combat against them, or at least have some way of dealing with them. Even if it's not like a direct answer, you have to have a way to at least allow yourself to play in position against some of these teams, because these are the best of the best right now. These are the ones with the most proven results, whether it's based on, previous regionals or some recent online ladder play. Either way, these are what we call the crème de la crème, okay? So we're going to go ahead and start with some of the first archetypes here, and from there we'll just proceed into what we think are sleeper archetypes that you might see in Toronto. All right, so let's get down to it. All right, so starting with the first one, what you're going to end up seeing is, the standard 6, as I like to say, the standard Tornadus Tailwind Offense that either runs some kind of weather condition, like in this one it's rain dance. Sometimes you'll even see sunny day depending on the archetype, but pretty much expect Tornadus plus Chien-Pao, Urshifu, and then 3 homies along with it, right? So in this case, we got Fluttermane, Rillaboom, and the Hisuian Arcanine. Sometimes you'll see Landorus in this slot as opposed to the Arcanine, but Arcanine gives a Fire, Water, Grass core along with the Urshifu over here. In fact, let me just put that over here. So, Urshifu, Rillaboom, Arcanine, very, very good core. And then, you get a lot of speed control with the Tailwind. You get Taunt, so this way you can deny potential setup, deny Trick Room. Chien-Pao makes all these Pokemon hit hard, right? Because of physical damage boosting. Well, in a way, yeah, right? You're just reducing defense because of Sword of Ruin. And then here's Fluttermane, your main special attacker, along with Tornadus, even though this is like half, it's just mainly there for support purposes. But something like this with a boost energy, Moonblast, Dazzling Gleam, Shadow Ball, as expected. You might even see the occasional icy one on either the Tornadus or the Fluttermane, but this is like a very, very standard 6 that you're going to be able to see. And then here's like a Landorus variation, right? So if you have like Tornadus, Landorus with Chien-Pao and Urshifu, that's another way of going about this. And the idea is, along with the Tornadus, you have a flying type on your team. You can even Earthquake next to it. Your Choice Banded Landorus. Sometimes you'll even see like the Scarf here, but in this case you might see like something like this with Life Orb, Urshifu. But this could be either like Mystic Water. This could be Choice Scarf. Chien-Pao again with the Focus Sash is expected, and then you'll see like Goldengo and either Ogerpon or Amoonguss on these teams, right? Some just redirection support is always like really, really good. So you see something like this. Or you'll see this kind of variation where you have like the sunny day instead of the rain dance. And usually these teams involve Landorus, Chi-Yu, and Fluttermane. So, sunny day able to reduce water damage against the Landorus. And then also, for the Chi-Yu, reducing water damage. But at the same time, enabling the Chi-Yu and the Fluttermane, because, photosynthesis over here, as well as, extra fire damage altogether. But mainly, this weather is good against, some of these Ninetales teams. So this way you take away their weathers, which means they can't set up their Veil, which is important. Okay, and then King Gambit and Amoonguss. This is just like for your Trick Room matchup. Very, very standard balanced kind of way. I call this Tailwind Balance Offense in a way, right? So you'll see like something like this with the Tornadus ideas. And really what you want to do when you encounter some of these teams is just make sure you either, in the mirror, if you're running your own Tornadus, if you're running like a mirror matchup, if you got Icy Wind, that's great. If you have priority moves, also pretty good, because these things are going to be like way too fast. So one way to really deal with them is just use your priority Pokemon. So if you got that, perfect. If you got Trick Room, also really good. Protect your Trick Room setter, I should say, because they want to taunt the Trick Room setter, but you can't do that if you can't get past the redirector first, right? So that's the main idea there. And remove the Tornadus first, so this way they can't go for their late game Tailwind and that kind of idea. And what you can also do is, if you got stuff like King Gambit on your team, or even Milotic, if these Tornaduses are just going for like Bleak Windstorms, maybe you can even catch them, catch the speed drop, and then get a Defiant boost or a competitive boost from there. I've done that a million times, and then you just get so much momentum in the next turn and you're able to steamroll these teams, right? So, just be aware of that. And then also, stuff like this where like Landers, Chi-Yu, Fluttermane, your own Landers does relatively well, which is why the King Gambit is over here. But in the grand scheme of things, Landers does relatively well against teams like this. If they do have the Chien-Pao, you do have to be a little bit careful. Okay, so like you have to make sure you have your own Fluttermane here. But in all things considered, right? These are one of the more stronger teams, more faster teams, of course. So just make sure you got something for them. Next up, this is our Roaring Moon Milotic archetype. This is one of our rentals. It's not exactly our rental, but it is the same 6, right? And you'll see some variation of this. This one is like Scald, Coil, Hypnosis, Recover. I don't necessarily agree with Scald. I think the Hydro Pump is actually a little bit better into a slot like this, but I can understand the Scald, the burn potential is there, right? But, something like this, again, with Iron Hands and Landers is always relatively strong. And then you have Fluttermane, another special attacker to go along with the Milotic. And then, of course, Ogerpon comes to these teams a lot, right? You get redirection support, strong fire type attacks, and then Horn Leech for a little bit more sustainability. But, again, like 1, 2, 3, 4 Pokemon that don't want to get intimidated. Okay, which is why the Milotic comes in here, right? And then, these coil setups are going to be like absolutely devastating, right? Because then they can just click Hypnosis, it's actually accurate, then Hydro Pump and stuff. So if you got a Haze user on your team, that's going to be important in terms of like removing all these buffs that the Milotic could go for. And you should be having some Haze or Clear Smog anyway, because, Dondozo's around, other Swords Dance users are around. It's not just all about the Milotic. But yeah, and it's just all about like, can I get my own Landers in position where, I can intimidate a lot of these things, but not have to worry about the Milotic, okay? So make sure you got something for your Milotic, and then your own Landers actually does relatively well against the rest of the squad. All right, next up, it is the Dusclops Blood Moon Ursaluna, and the way they work is the Blood Moon Ursaluna has the weakness policy, and then the Dusclops has Brick Break. So what they're going to do is they're going to try and set up the Trick Room, and then the next turn they're going to self-proc the weakness policy by clicking Brick Break into their own Ursaluna, and then this thing is going for +2 Hyper Voices, +2 Blood Moons, and +2 Earth Powers, right? And unlike the physical one, you can't intimidate it, so you can't really cycle and, neuter its damage in that sense. So, your screen support is going to have to be essential here. Maybe if you have something like Parting Shot that can weaken it from your Grimmsnarl, if you do have a Grimmsnarl. But ultimately, if you have your own Urshifu, that's going to be pretty good. Just any kind of grass or water type should do well. Now, they can go Terra Normal like this, which is where something like Fighting Coverage is always going to be good against something like Ursaluna. So make sure you got some Fighting Coverage on your team that's not named Iron Hands, okay, unless you're in a much better position than the other Ursaluna, right? Because, the ground type attack is going to hurt. Your Assault Vest does help a little bit, but, it's going to win that battle in the grand scheme of things. But Dusclops here with Will-O-Wisp and Haze. So again, Will-O-Wisp able to neuter some of those physical attackers. Haze wiping away the Intimidates, especially against like Iron Hands and even Landers or even Ogerpon for that matter. So I do respect that. Sometimes you see Pain Split or Nightshade, just for consistent damage, but Haze is a nice tech. And then these teams run Chi-Yu, right? Because then what you're able to do is switch out the Dusclops, go into Chi-Yu, and now you're going to go for like these +2 Hyper Voices, also boosted by Chi-Yu, which, trust me, you don't want to take. All right, and sometimes you might even forego the Landers here and just have like a special attacking mode with like the Fluttermane over here. So then in that sense, you have a little bit of a fast mode, but you might just go like the defensive route and just have like this double ground combination with the Blood Moon Ursaluna and the Landers, because you have Intimidate, Fake Out, Redirection Support, Speed Control over here, status conditions with Will-O-Wisp, and then, the Ogerpon is able to support the Ursaluna, Chi-Yu, and the Landers, because these are 3 things that are weak to water types. But if you can just redirect everything, with their water absorb ability, you can pretty much support this entire team. So Landers looks really good against, a lot of these other 4 Pokemon. You're going to need some way to deal with this Ursaluna, or just like pretty much KO the Dusclops. If you got like Dark Coverage on your team, you're set. If you got like Knockoff or like your Galarian Moltres, that's going to be pretty good. The Ursaluna, sometimes, again, can't really click its ground move against some of these flying types like a Roaring Moon or a Galarian Moltres. So you have that going for you. But all in all, if you even have like again strong fighting covers like another Urshifu, that's going to be like really really good here. But all in all, you know, you just need some way to get rid of the Ogerpon because Urshifu actually does relatively well here. You just have to find a way to position yourself and get rid of their Ogerpon if they do bring it. Alright, next up are these Ninetales, Baxcalibur, Snow teams. These are all like the balanced teams, you know, per se. So you'll have like Ninetales, Baxcalibur, you know, with Bax getting access to loaded dice with Icicle Spear and Scale Shot. And then they'll also have Swords Dance here to potentially, you know, offset any kind of damage mitigation that you might implement, you know, with your Intimidate cycling. And then the Ninetales just makes the entire team bulky with the Aurora Veil. You get good speed control with Icy Wind and Dazzling Gleam, you know, for decent damage. Not going to be doing a whole lot of damage, but damage is damage, right? And then the Ogerpon here, again, providing redirection support. Also paired with the Rillaboom, sometimes you might see both of these going for something like Grassy Glide, but Power Up is also relatively good. You know, strong base power, a little bit inaccurate, but not too much. Horn Leech is also perfectly acceptable. Woodhammer, same idea. And then the King Gambit, you know, again, just able to deter any kind of intimidates or like another opposing Icy Wind speed control against your own team. So you could potentially switch in your King Gambit and then, you know, just go for these hard-hitting sucker punches. And King Gambit also likes his team, you know, just because, again, you have the follow me and the screen support. So you can very easily set up your Swords Dance and start going for +2 priority sucker punches. So, you know, go figure. But all in all, Bax behind the Snow, you know, gets that defense boost. Aurora Veil also makes it extremely bulky, also able to set up a Swords Dance here. So just be aware, you know, again, take away Ninetales' weather. You know, if you got like Sunny Day or Rain Dance, take that away. Don't let it set up the Veil. You know, force it out of position in the beginning. And then if you take away that Veil, you take away a big part of the archetype altogether. Now, can they still play the game? Oh, yeah, definitely. You know, they still have enough here where they can still like manage. And then, you know, if they get rid of your weather setter or weather changer, then you're going to be in trouble in the late game if the Ninetales is still around. So just make sure you protect it, okay? But as far as like Elite, you could do like Tornadus Sunny Day stuff, Tornadus Rain Dance, force the Ninetales out, or just KO the Ninetales, you know, denying the Roarville, you know, knock out the partner potentially, and then Ninetales without the without the Veil, you know, just sitting there is actually like not so great. So, yeah. So next up are these Dragonite Chien-Pao teams, and this is, I believe, the Riley Factura variation where you have Assault Vest Dragonite with Thunder Punch, and again. These teams, these are expected, right? You got Chien-Pao boosting damage for Urshifu and Dragonite. Also, Ogerpon and King Gambit technically benefit from the Chien-Pao as well. Especially this Ogerpon over here. You know, an aggressive IV Cudgel boosted by Chien-Pao is not something, you know, you're going to want to take. So, you know, Intimidate does do a little bit here, but not so much. Again, Dragonite with Inner Focus, King Gambit over here. So, maybe not too much, you know, you're just really intimidating the Ogerpon, and I guess the Chien-Pao a little bit, but in the grand scheme of things, you know, Urshifu doesn't care, you crit right through, like I said, Inner Focus here, and then, of course, Defiant. So you have to be careful, you know, in how you go about this, but if you have, you know, something like Farigiraf, okay, that can take away a big part of this team's offense, right? Because look how many priority moves you got. You got 1, you got 2, 3, 4 Pokemon with priority moves. If you got a Farigiraf there, or even something like Fluttermane / Goldango, where you can't really extreme speed it, and then you have like a super effective attack going against both the Dragonite and or the Chien-Pao, then you're going to be in a good shape, okay? Amoonguss is pretty good, you know, with King Gambit into like Trick Room, of course. So these two likely come into, you know, some of those games, but ideally if you have like something to deny priority, or, you know, if you can just simply outspeed them, you know, they could be okay. Yeah, and then speaking of Farigiraf, you'll also see like some variation like this. Instead of even Dragonite, you might even just see like Tornadus Regidrago in that sense, right? So, but still, similar idea. Again, Fire Word, Grass Core with Rillaboom, Heatran, and Urshifu. This is the Reg D core. And then Farigiraf over here with Imprisoned Trick Room. Actually, this isn't even Imprisoned on this set. This is just simply Trick Room. But Helping Hand just allows this team just to do a little bit more extra damage. But still, the archetype is the same, right? You know, you got the priority boys here. Let me just move it up. So 4 Pokemon, again, with priority. Heatran and Farigiraf, they give you, like, the special attacking support that the team needs. Especially, like, the Trick Room variant, where you can just, you know, deny the opposing Trick Room and or deny opposing priority. That's why, you know, this team needs for a graph in that sense. You know, the opposing Pao Knight matchup, the mirror is what we're talking about here. All right, next up are these Weezing teams, and usually they revolve around the core with Roaring Moon and Flutter Mane. Why? Because Photosynthesis doesn't care about neutralizing gas. And then from there, stuff like Urshifu, Rillaboom, and Ogre are relatively standard. You might even see a Landorus with Ability Shield on one of these archetypes, but Weezing is a menace, and with the right player able to position and protect it, you know, relatively well, it could do a lot, because without your abilities, you know, a lot of these Pokemon are not so great. So taking away Intimidate is huge in terms of like not being able to neuter the Roaring Moon's damage. Here we don't have our own Intimidate, which is why the Breaking Swipe variant is triumphant over something like Acrobatics, Terra Blast, Terra Flying. So this is more like a support Roaring Moon in a sense that can still do big damage. Tailwind support to make your Flutter Mane, Rillaboom, and Ogre a little bit more faster. And then what you could even do is have the Weezing also be fast, you know, get off these faster Will-O-Wisp and whatnot, you know, depending on the physical attacker that you're trying to neuter. The Flutter Mane with Specs, of course, with the Tailwind support is also very good. Urshifu with the Scarf, also good. You know, Rillaboom, AV without a question, and then, you know, standard stuff here from the Ogre Prawn. Weezing teams are going to be relatively strong, I would say. Like, they haven't had, like, that breakout performance yet. They've had, like, some top cut results, but I think now, finally, we're going to get that key Weezing top cut. No, well, they've always been able to top it, but, you know, like, that key Weezing top result, it's coming, and I feel like Toronto is the regional for it. Next up is Dondozo. You better bring your checks to this, because if not, Dondozo is going to go nuts. And it has been slightly on the rise, you know, a little bit as of late. And it's this Ninetales Glimmora variant. So again, this mortal spin damage, you know, with poison damage over time, adding to the fact that now you're using Aurora Veil over here just to make the entire team bulky. And now Dondozo is a little bit tough to break behind screens. And what you're able to now do is just set up, you know, potential order ups, earthquakes, wave crashes. These are going to do a ton of damage, and behind screens, Dondozo is chilling, especially with leftovers protect. The Tatsugiri, sometimes you'll see safety goggles, sometimes you'll see a scarf, a berry, even ability shield, depending on what the player wants to do with the Tatsugiri, of course. But, you know, all in all, even Iron Hands and Ogre Pond here are going to do relatively okay on teams like this. But you'll always see these four, more or less. Ninetales, Glimmora, Dondozo, Tatsugiri. These last two slots are a little bit more flexible. But, of course, you know, it's really hard not to justify Iron Hands on the team. It just makes any team better in general. But, yeah, you know, if you got Haze, that's good. If you got Clear Smog, Amoonguss, also very, very good. If you got Sharpness, you know, from your own Gallade, for example, that's also pretty good. You can ignore these Dondozo boosts. If you know, this is Terra-type Dragon too, right? So, you know, your Flutter Mane could do relatively well. It's just all a matter of positioning at the end of the day. But you need something to be able to deal with these buffs and to be able to remove them, because otherwise Dondozo in the right position just goes absolutely bonkers. I don't need to tell you guys that. All right, let's take a look at some of the Psyspam teams, and this is one with Regidrago on it, and you might ask, like, why Regidrago? It's because of the Lilligant, because now in the Sun, Lilligant can go for stuff like After You, and then Dragon Energy is able to go first, and it's just going to be able to do a bunch of damage. So just be aware of that. But other than that, you know, into the Armorous teams, especially with, like, Psychic Seeds and then Life Orb over here, makes a lot of sense. Trick Room, Wide Guard, Expanding Force, aka the Psyspam archetype. Then you have Torkoal and Ursaluna in the back. This is your special sweeper. This is your physical sweeper. You know, it goes without saying, you know, what these two can do. And here's your fast mode, Lilligant, Torkoal. You know, After You, you know, with Chlorophyll will allow the Torkoal to go first with Eruption. It's kind of hard to call. Sometimes you just don't know. Are they going to lead the Armor Indeedee? Are they going to lead Lilycole? Are they going to lead, you know, Regidrago plus something else? You know, what are we going to do here? Are you even going to do Indeedee Ursaluna? Right? That's also technically a thing, you know, because this Indeedee has Trick Room. So, you know, lots of different possibilities, and Regidrago just makes sense on teams like this, especially, you know, even though there is a Flutter Mane around, you know, things going Terra Dragon, as well as, you know, not having the resist, you know, for this Dragon Energy, especially with Dragon Fang and stuff, it's just going to do so much damage. And you also can count on the fact of Sleep Powder, you know, from the Lilligant. Okay, so don't forget about that. All right, and, you know, a lot of spread moves these days, so Wide Guard could also come in handy. You're going to have to be aware of that. All right, and like I said, the Indeedee with Helping Hand is just going to let the Regidrago go absolutely nuts. you know, one way to stop it is just click a priority move and damage it. But Indeedee says, no way, Jose. So if you got something like Rillaboom to take away Indeedee's terrain, that's going to help a little bit. Okay, and then if you got something, you know, for Taunt or your own Trick Room user or Trick Room abuser into this, that's also good. Because if you can't do anything about stopping their Trick Room, at least have a way to play in Trick Room if it is up. Okay, that's what I always like to say. Okay, then we have the Gallade Psyspam variant. So again, Psycho Cut, Sacred Sword, Trick Room, Wide Guard. So this could also do something. And well, and again, like Sharpness is very, very good, you know, with Sacred Sword and as well as Psycho Cut, Trick Room, Wide Guard, you know, same stuff. Then you have Indeedee over here, again, with the terrain. And then here's the Armor Rouge. So Expanding Force is going to do a lot. Psycho Cut is going to do a lot. Then you have Torkoal, Ursaluna. Again, standard stuff, you know, your Trick Room sweepers. And then the Dark Urshifu is also, you know, very strong on these teams. So, you know, more or less the same like the other team. You know, find a way to remove Indeedee's terrain. So this way, Gallade and Armor Rouge just don't go absolutely bonkers. Okay, so make sure you have that. And then from there, you know, if you can have like your own Trick Room setter to stop Trick Room, or just have like an Amoonguss to be able to do something. Now, granted, Terra Grass, you know, along with this burn status is a thing. Okay, so you have to be aware of that. Except this is Terra Psychic, so I don't know about that. But if you have an Amoonguss for teams like this, that would be good. But because of Amoonguss's dropping usage, you know, Psyspam teams are also like just running around. So just have something for Gallade Psyspam, and then you should be all right. Next up, you're probably going to see a couple of Michael Zhang's teams over there. This is the Tyranitar, Hisuian Arcanine idea, you know, combined with, you know, Flutter Mane and Iron Bundle, your special attack variants, you know, Icy Wind plus a ton of damage coming from Choice Specs Flutter Mane. But really what it comes down to is the Arcanine. This is the secret here, you know, because with how you're able to mitigate incoming Intimidates, boost your attack along with your partner's attack. So Tyranitar and Arcanine are going to be doing huge damage, as is the Rillaboom, along with potentially even the Kommo here with something like, well, maybe I guess with Iron Head, but I don't think it's like an attacking nature. I don't remember his exact pace here, but, you know, like I said, Arcanine here with also Will-O-Wisp, again, not just Intimidate, but also able to, you know, stop other potential physical attackers. Terra Psychic is great against the opposing fighting types, but Tyranitar with this Sand is able to disrupt a lot of those Ninetales teams because, again, you're taking away their weather. And then from there, the Ninetales is at the mercy of this Rock Slide spam, as well as Baxcalibur. So you have to be aware of that. And then, you know, Iron Bundle and Flutter Mane, they're just going to get so much speed control on you, especially like Booster Bundle, you know, Icy Wind, and then your own Flutter will be able to outspeed after that. And then you just have Rillaboom here for a little bit more extra recovery. You have Taunt Rillaboom, so that's also pretty cool. And then, of course, the end game with the Iron Defense Body Press shenanigans, you know, Terra Steel Kommo along with Iron Head. So, you know, again, just have something. You know, would Intimidate work here? It could. You know, you're just intimidating Tyranitar and Arcanine. But again, this is where Howl's going to come in handy. If you have Haze to be able to remove, you know, the Kommo stuff, you know, that's also going to be relatively good. But be careful with using Milotic because, again, the Iron Bundle and the Rillaboom are on this team as well. So they're going to make life a little bit difficult for your Milotic to be able to click Haze. You're not going to have a fun time there. So make sure you get rid of these options first. Before you're going off with something like the Haze. All right, couple sleepers team. I think Hisuian Goodra is actually not too bad at all. And, you know, the Hisuian Goodra behind screens is going to be actually pretty good this format. And then, you know, the Shelter Body Press stuff. Now you might say, well, why can't I just use Kommo? Technically, you could. It's not too bad, but I like Terra Flying here. This is going to be pretty good into Blood Moon or Ursaluna. You know, it's just not at the mercy of those ground type attacks. The normal type moves you're not really worried too much about. You have 150 base special defense. I think you'll be fine there. And then the Cresselia also, Calm Mind is correct here just because, you know, this is already passive with your Grimmsnarl. But then you also have a Cresselia. You don't want to be passive here as well. That's too much passivity. So let's make it a sweeper. Let's go for the Calm Mind stuff. So then we have like, you know, true endgame potential here. And then you can always just end up healing the Cresselia, you know, with something like Life Dew on this Goodra. I think it makes sense here. And then even the Annihilate here with Bulk Up. You know, this is also very, very good. You know, screens with Bulk Up. So you have a lot of setup here. I can't imagine how long some of these games would be. But you have potential to set up the correct mon here. So I think this is going to be good. You know, Goodra's also pretty good. You know, something like Sinistra So Sinister Screens plus Goodra and or Moltres is also like a pretty strong idea. Here's what I think should be the sleeper team of the regional, and that is our Salamence squad. Okay, this already has like 2 second place results, one in a local and one in an online tournaments. But ideally, again, Salamence is really good in regulationE. All right, I stand by that statement, especially now, you know, with Ogerpons running around. You have Salamence here, you know, Dragon Flying typing, really good at resisting Urshifu, the fighting move and the water move. Okay, and now you can snipe Fluttermanes with Iron Head here, and then something like Dragon Dance to be able to set that up behind Ninetales or Aurora Veil is just going to make it a huge threat. And then you have this Coil Hypnosis Hydro Pump Milotic, you know, something like this where you just set up your coils and put things to sleep. Okay, especially behind screens is actually very devastating. And then you have like Rillaboom, Ogerpon, and then maybe even something like a Heatran here. You might even just adjust this slot and add something else here. Like you could even put you know, not necessarily Landers because you have your own Salamence here, but I like Heatran here just to be able to resist. I have a little bit of a resist, you know, to Fluttermane here, but something like Will-O-Wisp or Substitute here is also really good. But I do believe a Salamence team should do well at the regional, right? It may not be this 6, but it may have some of these cores, but I do think Salamence is the play. Okay, that is my call. All right, Salamence is the call for Toronto. Okay, go ahead and argue with me in the comments. All right, but that's gonna do it. So hopefully all the teams that we listed were already on your radar, and you have something for them, perfect. You know, from there it's just all about play, right? And if I did mention a team that was not on your radar, then it should be on your radar because you're gonna see it. It has some good results, you know, across the board from previous regionals and as well as online tournament play. So make sure you prep enough to have something for any of the archetypes that were not on your radar. But yeah, that's all I gotta say, folks. Hopefully this video helped you guys out a little bit. Even if you got one thing, then you know that's really all we want. Okay, we'll be back with another video in the next one, guys. Peace out and have a good night.